Picture this scene. Evening. The dimmed lights of an expensive bistro in downtown Manhattan. The background noise is just the soft clinking of glasses and quiet conversations at neighboring tables. Sitting across from you is Jessica. Candlelight reflects in her eyes, full of anticipation, as she leans across the table and voices her request. Perhaps she wants you to fund a trip to the Hamptons with her girlfriends. Or maybe she demands that you spend your only day off listening to her complain about a problem she has no intention of solving. Or maybe it's simply a demand for your undivided attention at the exact moment a critical project is burning at work. In her relaxed posture and slight smile, there is an absolute terrifying confidence that you will not find the strength within yourself to say no. Her request hangs in the air, heavy and tangible as thick fog. You feel that familiar knot in your stomach, a slight spike of adrenaline. Your logical mind, the part of you that builds businesses and solves complex problems, is literally screaming that this is a bad deal. You know your boundaries. You understand that this goes against your long-term goals. In this moment, you physically feel yourself betraying yourself, trading your self-respect for a minute of fake peace. But instead of a firm refusal, you hear your own voice betraying you. You hear yourself agreeing. You watch yourself as if from the sidelines, as you buckle under invisible pressure, sacrificing your standards to preserve an illusory peace. Later, alone in your apartment staring at the ceiling, you ask yourself, how did this happen? How did you become a man whose time is perceived as a public park, open to everyone and guarded by no one? How did your resources turn into a community chest? The silence of the empty room only amplifies the bitter realization that by trying to be convenient for others, you are slowly but surely erasing your own personality. Today, we will break down the most important psychological asset you have been neglecting, the art of strategic refusal. We will explore why the word no is not an act of aggression, but the only path to genuine respect. Your constant, automatic agreement inevitably devalues your significance, turning the exclusive currency of your attention into cheap paper used to paste over cracks in the wall. To master this, you must first understand the hidden, sometimes brutal economics of human interaction. We are observing a market failure in your personal life. Most men today function under a trade deficit, systematically depleted by a dynamic that favors the asker, not the giver. Think of this as an asymmetry of transaction costs. When Jessica wants your time, your emotional stability, or your financial support, the cost of initiating this request for her is effectively zero. She doesn't need to spend energy, capital, or risk anything to simply want. It is a limitless line of credit for which she never receives a bill. However, when you agree to provide what is required, the cost for you is absolute. You pay with your time, the only asset that cannot be recovered. You pay with mental focus, which is finite. You pay with money for which you spent your life force to earn. Every time you agree to unfavorable terms, you are effectively stealing these resources from your own ambitions, investing in someone else's comfort instead of building your own empire. This creates what economists call moral hazard, a situation where one party takes risks because the costs are borne by another. She has every incentive to ask for more because the act of asking is free. You have every reason to give less, but social programming forces you to give more. This imbalance is the root of your exhaustion. You started your journey with ambition and a clear identity, but slowly turned into a utility provider, dispensing resources on command simply because you never put a guard at the door of your life. Without strict customs control at the borders of your personality, you are doomed to inevitable bankruptcy, not financial, but energetic and spiritual. This is not an accident. It is architecture. From the moment you went to school, and perhaps earlier in your family dynamic, specific software was uploaded into you. You were taught that your value as a man is directly linked to your utility, your ability to provide solutions, stability, and resources. You begin to believe that love and respect are not things given freely, but a currency that must be constantly earned by sacrificing your own interests. On the other hand, modern social dynamics often train women to operate on a schedule of variable reinforcement. In psychology, this is the most powerful form of habit formation. It is the same mechanism that makes slot machines so addictive. Sometimes she gets what she wants, sometimes she doesn't, but the wins happen often enough to keep pulling the lever. Since pulling the lever, the act of asking, requires no coin to play, there is no natural limiter to this behavior. For her, it is a perfect zero-risk deal. If you refuse, she loses nothing, but if you agree, she gets pure profit. She can demand your approval, your labor, and access to your network without ever tapping into her own reserves. Every time you say yes, out of guilt or duty, you reinforce this loop. You teach the world that you are a resource to be mined, not a partner to be cherished. The tragedy is that you are trapped in a negative feedback loop. When you try to establish a perimeter around your life, you often face swift emotional correction, coldness, accusations of indifference, or silence. Society has trained you to interpret a woman's disappointment as your personal failure. If she is unhappy, the script says it is your job to fix it, usually by sacrificing something of your own. This system is designed to extract maximum value from you, placing maximum responsibility on you for the emotional state of everyone around you. As a result, you live in a state of chronic anxiety, constantly scanning the horizon for the slightest signs of her dissatisfaction instead of focusing on your own goals. Most men live in a mental cage of scarcity, making breaking this cycle seem dangerous. If you believe that opportunities for connection are rare, you will cling to bad deals. When you operate from a scarcity mindset, whether romantic, social, or economic, every refusal feels like a bet you can't afford to lose. You worry that if you refuse the expensive dinner, she will vanish, and if you refuse to be an emotional sponge, she will find someone who will agree. This fear turns you into a supplicant. You stop choosing what is best for you and start negotiating for survival. You become a hostage to your own compliance, mistakenly believing that one more sacrifice will finally guarantee you the safety that does not actually exist. You feed your autonomy to others piece by piece, hoping that if you give enough, you will finally become indispensable. But in reality, you just become convenient. However, the logic of scarcity is flawed, as it creates the exact result you are trying to prevent. High-value people smell desperation. It has a distinct scent. Your anxiety acts as a powerful anti-aphrodisiac, instantly lowering your status in the hierarchy of her perception and turning you from a mystery into an open book. When a man cannot protect his resources, he signals that those resources have low value. When you place her approval above your standards, you demonstrate that your standards are for sale. This kills respect, and without respect, attraction inevitably fades. You cannot maintain a healthy dynamic with a partner who views you as an endless supply warehouse, because you turn her from a companion into a consumer. And a consumer, as is well known, feels no love for an ATM. They only feel irritation when it stops dispensing cash. And the scariest part of this deal is that in the end, she will leave not because you gave too little, but because you gave everything, leaving yourself with nothing for which you could be respected. The reason it is hard for you to say no is not because you are too kind. It is because you are ruled by the fear of an emotional reaction. You are trained to perceive female anger or sadness as an alarm signal that must be immediately shut off. Often this comes from childhood, where preserving the happiness of the women in your life meant preserving peace in the home. As an adult, this neural pathway is still active. When she makes a demand you want to decline, your nervous system flares up with a threat signal. You predict a storm and capitulate to avoid the rain. You become a hostage to someone else's mood, ready to burn your own comfort just to silence this internal siren. This dynamic is particularly explosive when interacting with people who have a high sense of entitlement, those raised with the belief that their desires are commands. When you refuse a woman who has never been told no, you break a lifelong pattern of compliance she has received from others. In that moment, your refusal is perceived by her not as a reasonable decision, but as a glitch in the system where she was always allowed everything. Her reaction might be turbulent not because you are wrong, but because you are the first person to introduce boundaries into her reality. Essentially, her outrage is simply the sound of her illusion of omnipotence shattering against the rock of your character. But here is the critical shift you must make. Her emotional reaction to your boundary is her project, not yours. You are not the manager of her internal state. You are the CEO of your own life. The more success you achieve, the more important this skill becomes. Success is a beacon. As your status and resources grow, the line of people wanting a piece of that success grows with it. If you do not learn to deflect requests, your success will be your undoing. The very achievements that make you attractive also make you a target for resource extraction. If you don't put guards at the gate, the castle will be looted. Every minute given to serving others' secondary needs is a brick knocked out of the foundation of your empire, making the whole structure shaky. Refusal, when executed correctly, is not cruelty. It is high-level communication. It is clarity. It tells the world who you are and what you stand for. It is an educational tool that teaches people how to treat you. Paradoxically, those around you begin to value you more when they realize that your yes is an exclusive gift, not an automatic reaction. The secret is that refusal doesn't have to be rude. In fact, the most effective men refuse with a mixture of warmth and absolute firmness. We call this the iron hand in a velvet glove. Clarity means directness. Kindness means preserving dignity. Consistency means you don't waver under pressure. You can reframe refusal as a compliment. It is a master-level social skill. Instead of mumbling excuses, a man of character can say, "I respect my time and yours too much to agree to something I cannot be fully present for." Or, "I am incredibly focused on my business right now, and I know I wouldn't be able to give you the attention a woman like you deserves." This approach instantly changes the dynamic. You stop being the guilty party and transform into a man who knows the value of his commitments and doesn't scatter them in vain. Do you see this shift? You are not rejecting her because she isn't good enough. You are declining the request because your standards for yourself and your time are incredibly high. This positions you as a man of purpose. It makes no an act of integrity, not an act of dismissal. You broadcast to the world that your internal compass is tuned to your own values, not to the magnetic storms of other people's whims. To do this, you need to develop psychological calluses. Just as a weightlifter builds calluses on his palms, you must develop resilience to others' disappointment. You must learn to sit comfortably in the tension that follows the word no. When she looks disappointed, your instinct will scream, "Fix it. Do not do that." Let the silence do the heavy lifting. Let her process the fact that you are a sovereign individual with your own agenda. This doesn't make you cold, it makes you solid. A rock doesn't apologize for being a rock, it simply exists. You need to be the rock in the stream. The water flows around you, but you don't move just because the current pushes. Ultimately, the flow always finds a way to move around the stone, and in the exact same way, people inevitably adapt to your boundaries if they sense their monumentality. Start small. Practice on low-stakes interactions. Decline a social invitation you don't want to attend. Say no to upsells at a coffee shop. Flex the refusal muscle so that when the high-stakes moments come, when you are looking into the eyes of someone you truly care about, you have the strength to choose your own well-being. You must adopt portfolio thinking regarding your resources. A smart investor doesn't put 100% of his capital into one volatile stock, yet men constantly do this with their attention. You must view your time and energy as limited capital that must be allocated to generate the highest return. Every time you say yes to a draining request, you are effectively embezzling from your own future. You are stealing from your business, your health, and your peace of mind. When you look at it from this angle, the word no becomes an act of responsible management. You are protecting the asset. Women are biologically and psychologically programmed to seek safety and strength. A man who cannot say no projects weakness. He shows that he can be swayed, he can be manipulated. A man who holds his ground projects abundance. He signals that he has other options, other missions, and a clear direction. This is magnetism. A boundary acts as a filter. It screens out consumers and keeps investors. A woman who respects your no is a potential partner. A woman who resents it reveals her intent to consume. This brings us to the concept of abundance. This cannot be faked. You must build a life so rich in purpose and options that the word no sounds natural. If you have no other options, no career prospects, no social circle, no fitness goals, you will cling to whatever comes your way. But when you are actively building a legacy, you start protecting your construction site. You understand that the wrong person entering the site can destroy months of work. As you expand your horizons, improve your physical fitness, expand your network, sharpen your skills, your tolerance for nonsense drops. You become a selector, not a supplicant. You realize the prize is your resources. This is not arrogance. It is an accurate assessment. The market value of a man who respects himself is infinitely higher than that of a man who acts like a doormat. Your time stops being a public resource and becomes a closed club, membership in which is a privilege that must be earned, not a default right. The women you want in your life, those of high character, actually feel safer with a man who has boundaries. A man without boundaries is unpredictable. If he cannot say no to her, will he be able to say no to bad business deals? Will he be able to say no to vices? Will he be able to say no to other threats? She instinctively understands, if you can be crushed by simple emotional pressure or a whim, then a real-life crisis will simply destroy you. His compliance is a vulnerability. By drawing a hard line, you demonstrate your capacity to protect. You show that you can hold structure, that you can withstand a storm of emotions without capsizing. This is the essence of masculine stability. In the early stages of dating, this is critical. If you start by bending, you set a precedent of flexibility that will eventually break you. You teach her that your no actually means maybe if she presses hard enough. But if you start with firm, kind boundaries, you establish a culture of mutual respect. Essentially, you are immediately handing her an instruction manual for yourself. This is allowed with me, but this is not, and this saves both of you from unnecessary drama and guessing games in the future. Effective refusal is also a service to the relationship. It prevents resentment. The nice guy who agrees to everything eventually becomes bitter. He feels used, even though he handed over the keys himself. This bitterness poisons the bond. Imagine that every insincere nod is a small lie that over time turns into a massive, invisible wall of cold distrust between you. By saying no early and often, you guarantee that every yes is sincere. When you agree to something, she knows you truly mean it, because she knows you have the capacity to refuse. Your generosity becomes valuable because it is a choice, not a compulsion. Look at the blueprint of your life. Are you the architect, or are you just living in a building designed by the demands of others? Mastering the art of refusal is the moment you pick up the drafting pencil. It is the moment you decide where the walls will stand and where the doors will be. It is a liberation from the exhausting treadmill of people-pleasing. It frees you to be generous on your terms. The most fulfilled men are those who fiercely guard their time to give it fully to what truly matters. They reject the good to make room for the great. After all, you cannot fill your cup with the gold of true achievement if it is already filled to the brim with the sand of other people's expectations. They reject the drain to preserve the flow. It is not about becoming a reclusive hermit or an angry cynic. The point is to become a smart master of your destiny. Accept the fact that you are the captain of your ship. A good captain doesn't run around the deck at every call and doesn't handle every trifle personally. He holds the course, he makes the main decisions, and he refuses anything that hinders the vessel's movement so the crew can survive and win. You wouldn't abandon the helm during a storm just because someone wanted you to come down to the cabin and entertain guests, would you? You must treat your life with the same responsibility. Every inappropriate request you say no to adds weight to you in your own eyes. Every boundary you defend makes your future stronger. The pain of momentary awkwardness when saying no is nothing compared to the long-term agony of a life that does not belong to you. Better to endure 5 minutes of someone else's displeasure now than to spend 10 years regretting that you lived them according to someone else's orders. Navigating the landscape of relationships. Remember, you are not begging for a job, you are conducting the selection for your team. You choose who goes with you on the reconnaissance mission. The ability to say no is your main qualification for leadership. It shows that you have a vision that is more important than immediate pleasure. It shows you are playing the long game. The woman who is right for you will not only accept your boundaries, she will admire them. She will see them as proof that in front of her stands a man who knows who he is and where he is going. Your firm word works as a perfect filter. It scares away those who wanted to use you and attracts those looking for reliability. Those who fall away were never meant to be on this journey. So, next time you find yourself at that table and a request comes in, the one that makes your stomach not pause, breathe. Look her in the eyes. This short silence is not a sign of insecurity, but the moment you seize control of the situation and speak the truth with the calm confidence of a man who owns himself. I cannot do that. That doesn't work for me. I have other priorities right now. Watch what happens. The world will not collapse. The sky will not fall. In fact, you might see a spark of new respect in her eyes. And more importantly, you will feel a surge of power that comes from reclaiming your sovereignty. In this very instant, you will feel the heavy burden of other people's expectations fall from your shoulders, and you finally straighten your back. You are building a life of weight. Do not let it be devalued by the demands of the moment. Guard your resources, value your time, respect your character enough to defend it. This is the path of a high-value man. This is the path of strong character. If this analysis resonated with you, and you are ready to stop leaking resources and start building a fortress of self-respect, make sure you are subscribed to the Psycharia channel. We are creating a brotherhood of men who understand the physics of value and the psychology of relationship dynamics. Fighting old habits alone is hard, but surrounded by like-minded men, your will becomes stronger than steel. Share this video with a friend who is currently drowning in obligations he should never have agreed to. Help him find the surface. Until next time, remember, your no defines the value of your yes. Master refusal, and you master your destiny.